everybody, my name's Hannah Cox. I'm founder and managing director of Gallup Executive. So we're executive search specialists across digital operations and marketing with a very unique focus on customer experience. Here is a series with Wayne Grimshawe, and we're going to be talking about the maturity of CX from service centre to boardroom. Wayne, could I hand over to do a brief introduction, please?
Yeah, no. Hello, everyone. I'm Wayne Grimshawe. I'm the Group Director of Customer Care and Shipping at Storio Group. It's involved in a lot of different things, which we'll open up to all around customer experience, particularly around supply chain and receiving items. But yeah, having worked in many different organisations, starting off in contact centres and now moving into a broader remit around putting the customer at the heart of organisations.
Wonderful, and we go back many, many years, don't we, Wayne? And it's a pleasure to have known you. Long way. And I didn't forget to introduce myself this time, but I did forget to introduce the actual podcast itself. So, of course, this is part of the Unicorns and Dark Horses series for diverse leadership legends. So, as I say, our discussion today is around the maturity of CX and really taking customer experience out of the service centre and into the boardroom. So we'll get cracked straight on then, Wayne, shall we? So where do you feel organisations get stuck on the journey from operational customer experience to strategic customer experience?
I think they get stuck in some way between fixing problems and starting to understand actually what we want to be. So we all know really easily that the customer service environment and the service centre has been really useful at helping organisations to know where the problems are. And sometimes we just pick those off one by one. But when we pick them off, we still haven't changed the overall customer experience. We've just eradicated actually what's not right. What we need to ask ourselves along the way is actually, what do we want to be? What do we want that service experience to be? And therefore, how are we going to move people from not being happy to having the kind of experience we'd like to design that will drive memory, which will drive retention, which will drive future purchase behaviour? And that happens in a lot of organisations. They go, oh, we've done a good job. We fixed this and we fixed that and we fixed this and we did that and we did that. But it doesn't always equal then retention. It just equals actually moving away the pain points. And still you become almost, you get to that vanilla experience rather than the memorable ones that's going to drive people to come back. And I think that in terms of doing that, the best way to move forward is to truly listen, whether it's listening to your people, whether it's listening to your customer, or whether it's listening to regulators or other people around the organisation to go, actually, what is it that people are seeing, or how do they perceive your organisation? And then asking yourself, is that what we really want and what do we want to be? And then finding that difference between fixing problems and being what you want to be as an organisation. But that sounds easy, but it's incredibly hard when you've got multi-layered, multifaceted, and everyone's got an opinion, whether or not it's in marketing or the operations team, or whether or not it's in the regulatory team. Everyone's got a view on what we should be doing. And finding that one common thread of actually everyone being aligned behind a single view of the customer is also a good start to then move towards what's the ultimate design experience. But yeah, that can churn. I've seen in businesses can go round multiple iterations before people start to have that aligned view.
And it's, I suppose it's particularly more difficult at the moment when many business leaders are in kind of this quick win sort of a mentality, and it's so easy to get stuck in the weeds, isn't it? But what you're saying is more kind of to start ultimately with the end in mind and then work backwards.
Well, I think it's always easy to find an excuse, right? We have it in our business. We need to hit the revenue target and we go hell for leather for that. Or we've got incidents coming out. We've got regulatory pressure. We've got cost cuts and all these things that are natural parts of organisations. And what we start to use is whatever the current topic or current heat is as our excuse for not focusing on the customer experience, when actually they're all reasons, not excuses. I think that's important to understand, is actually, if you don't focus, you are having an impact on the customer experience, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So even if you're doing all these things, you are still impacting the customer. Everything you do is impacting the customer. So we talk a lot about, do we want to make the customer experience deliberate or accidental? It will change. It's just whether or not you mean it to change or you don't. And sometimes you can't help but change it for the bad, because you have to break some things to put some things back together. But as long as it's conscious, as long as you're aware, as long as you're trying to do something, and then you're measuring what the impact on what you were trying to do, you will get there eventually, because you'll generate learns along that way. I think, yeah, that's the biggest thing I find, is people say, oh, we haven't got time to focus on the customer experience. So I said, well, you're doing it anyway. It's just actually not conscious. You want to grow, but then you can equal everything back to customer experience. Why have you got regulatory challenges? Well, the regulators putting things in there to protect the customer. Why have you got revenue? You focus on revenue and sales. Well, you fundamentally need to focus on the customer. So yeah, if you've got cost cuts, how do you know that those cost cuts are the right ones in order to maintain your customer base? Because there's no point cutting cost if revenue is going to come down at the same point, because you're just going to then lose it in margin. So I think it's bringing that customer into the room in all of those reasons that actually they are the reasons to carry on, and they are the reasons to keep going.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, and I'm totally going off piste here, but I'm good at doing this, and you know very well that I'm good at doing this. Who are some of your favourite brands for customer centricity?
My thing about customer centricity is actually honesty and integrity are really, really important. So I could love everything from innovation and brands that say they're innovation, and we all got the usual ones of Apple and everything else, and there's Dyson and all those others. But I actually really like the integrity and honesty from companies like Audi. They know what they are. They know what they're trying to be. It's a deliberate experience that they're trying to deliver, and they're unapologetic about it. So I think it's brilliant. I think also, like, the tone of voice in companies like Innocent Smoothies and stuff, if you read the back of their packets, is actually, they're a bit quirky, they're a bit funny, they know what they are, and they're honest about it. So yeah, I probably, same as what I value in people, if you're genuine, you're self-aware, and you've got a high degree of integrity, then you're a decent human. And I think the same goes for brands. So I think maturity as a word stands the test of time, whether or not it's about brands or it's about people. So yeah, I can love all brands, but yeah, those are the fundamental things that I really, really value. What I don't like is organizations that are not genuine, don't display integrity, say one thing, do another. So yeah, the very opposite of that is all the brands I do like.
There's a lot of that at the moment, isn't there, where you've got a brand perception and businesses that are obviously investing still very heavily on that front end kind of sales and marketing piece, but then scratch behind the surface operationally and have a look at kind of the product and customer proposition, and it's just like it's worlds apart from how the brand is kind of being positioned. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that that's happening in different market sectors as well, when everyone's focused on each other. The biggest one that happened in the early 2000s was the car insurance market, where they all fought for price to a point that the whole product became commoditized, and now you can't differentiate on product anymore. And so because everyone thinks just everything's the same, even if there were product differentials, no one's hearing it or no one's seeing it, because they just went for share, price, everything else at the same time. And now it's got a low integrity, because as prices go up, you're not able to talk to your customers or talk around it, because actually they're not willing to listen, not willing to acknowledge. So I do think that there's a race to the bottom in some areas, and I think that will damage brands. In our organisation, we suffered from that. So probably I would say 3 to 4 years ago, everything was very, very price driven. It was about share. It was about actually Christmas panic, biggest discount gets the biggest noise. And I think we're trying to turn the organisation away from that commercial. We call it, and I know it's a bit of a joke, it's like commercial crack your hooked on this revenue and this cycle. We're trying to come away from that to actually help people to understand the true value and resonate with the product and resonate with brands much better. And that's really, really tough when you've been on that journey of being a very promotion-led organization. But there's definitely some maturity to come away from that, because it's only a race to the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if as a consumer, if price is something that's really important for you, then you will go for the lowest cost. But it isn't always the case, is it? I mean, Aldi, that's such a great example. I mean, that Aldi has to have the best social media marketing team in the UK. I mean, it's just absolutely hilarious. The tone of the voice and you know, so some of the marketing content that they push out there. And that in itself drives, you know, immense customer loyalty, doesn't it?
Yeah, because people want brands to be reflective of them. They want them to be reflective of either their personality, their voice. It's all why people years ago, I mean, we used to ride motorbikes and get a Harley Davidson tattoo. It was a reflection of them and their personality. And I think Aldi's doing a really, really good job of actually starting off as a real cheap supermarket, and it was on price. But actually now, with its tone of voice, it's actually attracting all demographics of life, because actually the integrity that it's got, it knows it's going to get honest food, decent price. It makes no bones of what it is. It knows what it is. It's well aware of what it is. And it's going to poke a jibe at the bigger supermarkets and have a bit of fun with it. So I think that's a bit like every customer, right? You're gonna want decent value. At the same time, you're gonna want to see the challenger bring down some of the top big guns, and I think it's quite funny to see. I love I don't know the details why, but I'd love to know what their secret is within their organization about how they keep that alive and how they thread that through the whole organization. But you can see they're doing it quite well.
Interesting, isn't it? So, what's the top excuses that leaders hide behind when they avoid prioritising customer experience, and why do you believe this happens?
So my experience now at LeBron, it's all, most of the excuses revolve around either KPIs, either revolve around cost, what they can afford, or revolve around actually other things getting in the way and other noise in that, be that investors, be that stakeholders, be that regulators, or anything else. So my view is that if the KPIs are taking you away from the customer, then the KPIs could be wrong. And I think there's too many organizations holding dear to KPIs that they believe are right without ever really challenging them. An example would be years ago in the service center, and I spent a lot of time, would have been the whole answer 80% of calls in 20 seconds. No one has any idea of whether that contributes to retention. No one has any idea that that actually is a valuable thing to focus on. Yet, see, cost-wise, you sunk a lot of cost in answering calls quickly. If a call's answered quickly versus if it was 20, 30 seconds later, but it was answered better, more warmth, more relationship, more understanding, more listening afforded to it, customers waited to be dealt with by someone who was much more able to build a relationship with them, then they might do that. And I think that's the same with top business KPIs. NPS, we run NPS in our business, and I'm the NPS owner. But unless there is a whole ecosystem behind it, then it's just a vanity metric. So I think, yeah, top excuses would be KPIs. Cost cutting is a big one, right? We've seen over the last few years, costs of wages increase, rightly so, and everything else, but squeeze. We've seen some commercial economic pressures coming in different organizations in different sectors. So everyone's going to think innovatively about how they can maintain margins. Taking just rapid cost reduction off of easy, low fruit areas without acknowledging the impact on the customer experience means that organizations don't really understand what it would take to recover from those cost cuts or the true impact they're going to have on their business. I think I've done it myself, the invention of AI and everything else coming into organizations which can drive greater efficiency. Understanding about whether or not those are reinvested or those are harvested and for what benefit is perfectly legitimate conversation. So yeah, those are really important right now. You've got to understand, if everyone wants their business to be around in 10, 15, 20 years time, But by reacting today to a KPI or to a cost cut might take you further away from your business being fully successful in 15, 20 years time and have that longevity that it needs.
It's interesting because, again, we've mentioned, I mean, I wonder if this will become a buzzword in 10 years to come, AI. You know, using AI to as part of a cost reduction agenda is likely not going to land. However, using AI to optimize quality and increase quality, you know, and bring value, then you know, we've definitely got mileage in that, and that's what you've done, isn't it? Ultimately, so you haven't kind of interwoven AI into your processes just for the sakes of reducing cost, or because there's some sort of brand or market perception there that's required. You've actually done it with the customer in mind, and as a consequence, you've got really great results from that, haven't you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's two schools of thought. I mean, in terms of what we've done personally, we deal with customers who are managing photographs and make something special with their photograph, which is, I think, is really amazing. And those memories turning into lasting relationships moving forward. What we found is when people are really looking at their photographs, looking objectively and scrolling through them, it's actually late at night on a Sunday. And because of various reasons, that's not really possible to provide your greatest amount of resource to support customers on a Sunday evening. So we started with Sunday evenings being a really, really big thing about how we can provide solutions that help customers to get support when they need it. And that's what the start of our AI journey was, about how we do that at the time that we need. Now, I was full well knowing that that would yield itself into other halo benefits across the rest of the week, but it was a great place to start that was customer centric and customer focused. It meant every item was about that Sunday night moment. Now, what we then are able to do is to free up people to drive the empathy that's needed, and then free up our AI to solve the quick solutions that are needed. And that's just carrying on. And we've done that whether or not that's with customer facing AI, with quality assurance. So all our quality conversations are listened to by AI. So our people in the service center get 100% of feedback on all of their calls, not just a sample. Plus, we've also got Agent Assist, which actually helps the agent through the conversation, suggests knowledge, suggests prompts. And then if our people have got great solutions, we can harvest those solutions and replay those back out, and sometimes get those adopted by the customer facing AI or get those adopted by other people. So it allows for innovation. So I think that's great. I think more broadly, we've got to think about, is my view is AI is just the future of work. It's like the move from post to email. And I think that's the way that I try and badger my team. It's not going anywhere. So just as post letters, and I remember when I was in the service centre as an agent dealing with proper written letters of complaint, now that moves across into different channels. And so our people have got to be the thinkers. We talk about an orchestrator. So they're now, instead of playing the instrument, they're the conductor in the orchestra. But they're more important than ever, because if you don't conduct right, then everybody's out of tune and it all falls out. So we're teaching people on how to be orchestrators of ideas, thoughts, prompts, innovation, to let AI do the hard work. So yeah, we badge AI as the future of work, not the replacement of people. And I think that's really, really important. Now you're going to get some benefit along the way, but more broadly, you're going to harness that power to do greater things with it against an intended customer experience design.
I mean, that's really interesting, isn't it? So basically, you've piloted AI within the service centre to use across all areas of the business. So you've seen kind of a need to within the business where AI can support, and you kind of kept it in kind of a small area, and now you know, looking at using it business wide. That's good. And I mean, I know that your role has expanded from kind of service centre to much broader operations. So what does that mean for your role and potentially other operational roles that are out there?
So I think that's an important term, is that the customer service center is a brilliant environment to both learn about the customer and operational delivery of either workload, workflow, or even just operational business demands. So it's very, very simple that I'd never got involved in shipping before. So we had an opportunity that came out. it was easy. 40% of the contact into the service centre was being dealt with by about shipping. Where is my order? So I put myself forward for different reasons, using my operational skill set to lead the shipping team across Europe. I think we're doing about 14 million shipments a year. So bringing that into that team and that outlook into that team has actually increased that customer experience at a moment of truth, because we identified through our customer first work that receiving an item on time as per the promise was a massive trust builder. It wasn't a service differentiator, but it could be a trust reducer. It could reduce your trust, or it could give opportunity for the other aspects of the customer experience to shine. So it's really important to have that foundation layer of customer promise date. So now I moved from just owning shipping to owning the whole customer promise date. Then I've moved into owning the whole customer promise and proposition in the customer checkout and basket. So that means owning workflow. It means owning where orders routed to, how it's routed, and what promises we make along that. And that's in then data that underpins the organization. That, coupled with the AI that we're doing, now means it's how data is orchestrated in the organization and how we're using that to drive trust with customers. Now we're on customer communications, customer messaging, customer expectation management, and now looking at how we can do that throughout the journey. So now further up into the web journeys, all the way through, about how we're having a single tone of voice, back to the Audi point, so that we can then manage that customer all the way through, so they can have the joy in creating that product, and then the confidence that that's going to be delivered to them, and they're going to have all of their experiences in that physical photo product when they receive it.
So I mean, just there, and you've proven that customer experience, it's it sits way outside of just the service centre. It's interesting. I mean, we could have another podcast just on AI on its own, by the sounds of things, Wayne. But we'll get on with the questions that we've got for this particular subject. And so for a business listening to this, thinking we're stuck, what would you recommend is the best first move?
So I talked before about where they can get stuck themselves, but start with fixing problems. That's why the service centre is a great place. But then also, aligned with that, start listening, and then bring those two things together. So I would say, first, what are those pain points? And you ask yourself, when you see those pain points, do they matter to us? Okay, so there are some parts of the customer experience journey that really matter, because they're either about your brand value, your brand identity, they're about, or they're regulatory issues, or they're bigger than others. So understand actually what are the ones that are big for you. First, go fixing them, but in listening to those, try and understand what is it that customers want from that. What are they expecting? And I think we talk a lot about expectations. You've set expectations somewhere along your customer experience. You could have been setting them in your advertising material. You could have been setting them in your offer material. You could be setting them in your online presence. Then understand how you're then meeting those expectations, good or bad. That's the starting point, which you need to do. And you can get those learns from, the service centre. You can get those learns from surveys. You can get those learns from in-person sessions. You can get those learns even from feedback or review sites. But try and bring that together, and all of that listening together as an easy starting point, and find which resonates and what doesn't resonate with you. The other thing is, I would say, in separate to that, I have a massive thing when we design customer journeys about pain is good. And it sounds really bad that saying customer pain is good. And I liken this to the IKEA experience. So when I did a CX qualification, I studied on IKEA, because it was the big thing of, why do customers go back if all we've got to do is moan about it? So if anyone said we're going to IKEA tomorrow, it would be, oh my God, that's horrible. Oh my God, it's going to be a nightmare. That's going to be a nightmare. Everyone goes back, and you've got to understand why. And it's because they've maximized certain parts of the experience and deprioritized others, so they can drive a cost-effective solution. So for example, the biggest example, you go first, you go through the door, you go in the showroom, and there are no staff about. The reason no staff are about is so you can jump on everything. You can sit on a bed, you can go around the kitchen, you can pull out a drawer, you can open a cupboard without worry or fear. So you find they're doing that. So you're sacrificing one part of the experience for a part that you want to value. Then you have to go down and pick it yourself. Or you go through that marketplace and you herd it round like cattle and everything else. Well, you herd it round and everything else, but that's because it starts to spring up things you might need along that way, that inspiration. Oh, we didn't think about that, or you thought about that, or we needed one of those, or we didn't need one of those. And then you have to pick it yourself, and that's really horrible. And that's really, I don't know, everyone's gone through that experience. And then they try and sweeten that with a cheap hot dog, all because the investment is in, when you put it together, you're happy with it in your room. So they invest in the parts of the experience they want to invest in and de-invest, underinvest in other aspects of the experience, so that you can then have what I call peak and end memory. So your memory is brought by the peak point of the experience and the end. The rest of it you start to forget over time. I liken that a bit to the reason why people say, even not myself, but I would talk to women and they say childbirth's really bad. And then you go, but they still do it again, because the peak and the end, the peak is the lovely sea in the face, and the end is you've got that child growing, is value in itself. And you would go through that pain to achieve that value. And actually, that's why you can do it cost effectively. If you try to be good at everything, you won't drive any memory, because the human brain doesn't work like that. The human brain works on a point and an end, connects those two dots, and then it just becomes great and forgets everything underneath. So I think that's really important, that where is the deliberate pain in your experience, and where are those memories going to be created from?
So clever that is, Wayne, aligning that to childbirth, because it took me back to when I had Harriet. I mean, Sterling came out literally within minutes, so that it was kind of a non-event really. But I remember being in labour with Harriet and thinking, oh my God, a first child, I don't know how people do this more than once. I'm not having any more children after this. But then within 24 hours of having my little China doll baby in my arms, I was ready to have another one. But it's very, very true, isn't it? Very, very true. That's great. Thank you for talking us through that. So when you hear CX maturity, what does that mean to you in a business context?
I touched on it a little bit before. I think it's just the word maturity, and I don't think whether it's a business cost context or a human context, it's any different. It starts with self-awareness. Who are you? What are you? Who are you in the eyes of your customer? Who are you in the eyes of regulators? Who are you? And are you okay with that? So therefore, are you listening, actively listening? That's really, really important part of any form of maturity. Either you talk about, if you're developing an individual, you talk about self-awareness and listening to start, and it's the same for an organization. I think then it's about, are you happy with the positives and negatives? And you have to be happy with the negative. There are always negatives. Every business has got negatives. Every person's got negatives. Are you happy with them? So if you've got a bit of feedback about your negatives that you're happy with, sometimes you just go, okay, I hear it. I know that's one of my flaws. And I think, how to exaggerate your positives and then have a strategy for your negatives. I think that's the same in people as it is in businesses. And then starting to drive the ultimate is having pure accountability in an organization. And that downs to where we talked about deliberate experiences. And that's where I think that there's a high degree of accountability and self-awareness in some of the organizations that we have mentioned. So whether I was talking about my study that I did on IKEA, whether it's what we talked about Audi, or where we're talking about some other organizations that are starting to be memorable to people, you have that feeling that they know what they are, they appreciate the positives, they appreciate the negatives. You go Audi, they've invested all in their social media and all of those in fighting the big brands, but not invested in their shop furniture. It's just very rudimentary, right? Shelving and everything else is just very, very basic. So what are you going to actively invest in, and what are you going to then be good enough? That's, I think, an essence of maturing. But I don't see a massive difference between how you position an organization's maturity versus an individual's.
It's very, very, very true. I mean, it just shows the value of a service centre in an overall organisation when we look at you specifically, because obviously you come from a service centre background, and now you're in a very broad operational role where you're being dropped into lots and lots of kind of, well, we would say special projects for the business, as well as having that really wide operational responsibility and accountability. I mean, what is your, just as a kind of an extracurricular question, really, your broad opinion of the operational role at C-level, at senior level?
I think operations folk, and I'm going to say that quite broadly, I work with manufacturing teams, I work with customer service centre teams, I work with frontline retail teams. Operational folk have a lot more to offer than they've traditionally been given credit for. That ability to be able to, and I talk about my teams, sometimes we have to change the wheels of a car while it's driving along, right? The day is happening, but you're having to deal with today, next week, and be strategic at the same time. And I think learning that all of that time means that you have that ability to have that running, also coupled with the fact that it's high people environments. So leadership qualities and active listening and engaging teams is really, really important. So those operational qualities are immensely valuable, and getting that acknowledgement within an organization has really, really helped me personally. So now I spend a lot of time working through helping our marketing teams, helping our brand teams, helping our commercial teams, helping our digital product teams start to understand what the impact of their actions is going to be further down the road. And if they did that today, if they did that tomorrow, if they did that next week, and helping to size that. But that's the same true of our manufacturing colleagues. They do a lot of that work now. So I think, yeah, the power is shifting, that I think operational folk have a lot to offer organizations at a strategic level, whereas traditionally they've just been the doers of an organization. I'm hoping that AI will allow operational folk to have more of an impact, because obviously AI will do more doing, and this operational mindset, I think, can eventually be more valuable. I mean, I'm lucky. I say lucky. We've joked, and I call myself lucky, and you would challenge me and go, no, I don't think it's luck, Wayne. I think actually there's a bit more to it than that. But I'm lucky that I get afforded these opportunities to get in lots of different conversations about how we bring that mindset, how we bring that leadership quality, whether or not it's HR leadership, whether or not I'm getting involved in IT deployment of AI strategies, or whether we get involved in our overall propositional work. But yeah, I'm massively proud of the fact that I think we can make a massive difference as operational folk to how the organization runs and how it's seen. But that's the same. I don't doubt myself any different from that agent who wanted to make a difference all the way back in 1999 when I was sat on the phones listening to complaint calls. We all can make a difference if we want to, and just keep pushing at a door.
And what a journey you've been on, Wayne, since 1999, including, was it Watchdog or Panorama? Anyway, we won't go there.
I'm sure in the depths of YouTube there are some other videos that may surface at some point.
Right, as I'm typing into YouTube, Wayne Grimshawe. Anyway, that was brilliant, Wayne, as ever. It's always really great talking to you. You've got just a different perspective to a lot of people, and a lot of depth as well, importantly. So thank you for joining me today, and I will speak to you again very soon.
No, thank you too, Hannah. Really appreciate it. Speak soon.
My pleasure.
Bye.